Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm Ginger. We're going to go over Judges chapter 9 today. But let's just quickly review chapter 8 a little bit. Remember Gideon, they had just killed these military leaders, Oreb and Zeb. And they enlisted the help of the tribe of Ephraim to do that. Then the tribal leaders of Ephraim, they were pretty angry that that they were not included in the military, the military operations from the beginning. So they dealt with that, and then they decided to go over the king. To Gideon and his 300 men decided to go after the kings Zebah and Zalmunna, who were the kings of Midian, and they were going to capture them. Now they tried to get some of their fellow men to feed them, and they wouldn't do it. Some of their other Israelites, and they wouldn't do it. Like the men of Succoth, and I don't know, who was the other one? Penuel, and they wouldn't do it. So there was some retribution there that Gideon and his men took out on them. When they captured Zebah and Zalmunna, Gideon confronted them because those kings killed his brothers. And so that was a prior event that we hadn't heard of yet. So he killed them. He tried to get his son to kill them, his son was still a youth. So we don't know how old he was, but he said to Jether, this is verse 20, he said to Jether, his firstborn, rise, kill them. But the youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid because he was still a youth. And I think before, I thought of this later, and I also heard someone else talk about it. The reason, because I thought, why is he trying to get his young son to kill these two kings? Well, I realized that in these times and in this place, if you were killed by a woman or a kid, that was very dishonoring, and you were humiliated by that, especially if you were a great warrior or whatever, like these kings were supposed to be. So that's why Gideon was trying to get his son, who was a youth, to kill them, is to dishonor them. And the kings said, rise up yourself and fall on us, for as the man, so is his strength. So they would rather just be killed by Gideon because they didn't want the boy to kill them. And that's what happened. He killed them. Now remember, after this great defeat, and they pretty much took out the Midianites, Gideon created that ephod, and people worshipped it. They wanted him to be their king, but he refused. It wasn't God's time to have a king. But he started living like one. He took money from them, gold from them. He had all these different wives and all these sons and daughters from wives. He had like 70 sons. And now he also had a concubine who was in Shechem. And I learned a little bit about Shechem. Shechem is right here. Okay, here, this is a great, I'm enjoying this more, the Deluxe Then and Now Bible maps. Anyway, this map specifically from the time of the Judges. And if you'll see, Shechem is right here. Anyway, he had a concubine there. Now, a concubine is just basically another woman. It's a side lady. And he didn't take her as a wife, even though he'd taken all these other Israeli wives. As we read through this, there's lots of evidences that she was like a Canaanite. She wasn't an Israeli, so he shouldn't have had any kind of relationship with her. But he has a child with her, and that child, that son, he names, what is the name? Abimelech. Now, Abimelech means son of the king. So I think the fact that the people wanted him to be king went totally to his head, because he named his own son of the king. I mean, it's just pretty ridiculous. And he has all these women, yet he needs one more. He needs this non-God worshiping Canaanite woman. So Gideon dies. And the people go right back to their Baal worship and dishonoring God again. Just like it's the continuous cycle. They get in trouble because they're worshiping other gods and not following God. They get saved by one of these judges who come to deliver them and help them. And then that judge dies and they fall right back into the old patterns. And it says here that the people, after Gideon died, they did not show mercy to him. They fell back into idol worship and went against God. But let me read the last 2 verses of chapter 8 to you. Thus the sons of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who had delivered them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. Nor did they show kindness to the household of Jerubbabel, that is Gideon. Jerubbabel is his Canaanite name, in accord with all the good that he had done to Israel. Anyway, so they're going to not only dishonor God, but they're going to dishonor Gideon's remaining relatives. And Jerubbabel is the pagan name that Gideon's father gave him. Remember, Gideon's father was a Baal worshiper. Now, back to the city of Shechem. This is where Joseph was buried in the past. Abraham, when he was coming into the promised land, he came to Shechem. Dinah, if you remember the story of Dinah, she's the sister of Joseph and his brothers. She was raped in Shechem. The people there were a mix of Israelites and Canaanites, and that was where his mistress was, where Gideon's mistress or concubine was. It doesn't give her name. Okay. All right. So shall we read chapter 9? Now it's long. We'll see how long it goes. I don't like to go more than half an hour, but if we're if we're on a roll, I will. But I just want to make sure that people stick with me throughout the lesson. So it's a long one. So let's just see how far we get. Okay, remember, Gideon has died. Abimelech's conspiracy. Abimelech is the son that Gideon had with his concubine. His son that he had with the Canaanite woman. And Abimelech, the son of Jerubbabel is Gideon, and Abimelech, the son of Jerubbabel, went to Shechem, same city, to his mother's relatives, and spoke to them and to the whole clan of the household of his mother's father, saying, Speak now in the hearing of all the leaders of Shechem. Which is better for you, that 70 men, all the sons of Jerubbabel, rule over you, or that 1 man rule over you? Also remember that I am your bone and your flesh. And his mother's relatives spoke all these words on his behalf in the hearing of all the leaders of Shechem. And they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our relative. Okay, we have a lot of clues right there. So Abimelech, he goes to his mother's relatives in Shechem, indicating that these are not his father's relatives. If she had been a Hebrew, they would have been both his mother's relatives and his father's relatives, because all the Hebrews are related, right? Now, you can say all mankind is related from Adam and Eve, but we're talking distant relatives here, okay? So they no longer called each other relatives, but the Hebrews considered themselves relatives, and they married other Hebrews. But he's going to his mother's family, clear indication that they are Canaanites or not Hebrews. And he's saying, you know, my father, Jerubbabel, or Gideon, has 70 sons. And would you rather I rule over you? He's making his claim to be king. He knew his father, that the people in general wanted his father to be king. And he's going to his mother's relatives, the Canaanites, and said, let me rule over you. Would you rally behind me? And maybe I could be king. And I'm bone of your bone and flesh of your flesh. So, and then so this is his mother's family, the Canaanites. And he's basically saying that, you know, if I don't rule over you, you could have 70 different men ruling over you, because you know, all of Gideon's sons might do so. And okay, and they were inclined to go along with him because he says he is our relative. Okay, they gave him 70 pieces of silver from the house of Barabith, which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows, and they followed him. So they give him 70 pieces of silver, and with that he hires reckless fellows to help him with what he's about to do. Then he went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he had himself. Okay, so he goes back up to where Gideon lived. Remember, Gideon's name is also Jerubbaal. I'll remind you of that over and over again. This city, Ophrah, by Shechem, it has a question mark by it, but it's right there by Shechem, they think. So that's where he went, and he got all of his brothers, and he killed them on a stone. It doesn't say how he killed them. I wonder if there's any other historical writings that might give some clues to that, but I don't know of any. Excuse me. My goodness. I wonder if he beheaded them or just struck them on the head or something on a stone. But these hired men that he hired with these 70 pieces of silver did this. Reckless fellows. And I don't think the 70 pieces of silver were that much to hire all these people, but what do I know? Okay, so he killed his brothers. Yeah, this is really bad. You know, Gideon produced a child with this Canaanite woman, and he shouldn't have done that. And this child kills all the other sons. I mean, this is really horrific. So, all right, let's keep going. This is verse 6. Now, Shechem, remember, it's made up of Israelite and Canaanite peoples. All the men of Shechem and all Beth Millo assembled together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar which was in Shechem. So they, Beth Millo, the little bit of research I did, people think it was a tower of Shechem, like a fortress, and that there are people in charge of that fortress. And so there are men associated with this Beth Millo, this fortress. So all the men of Shechem up there, all the men of Shechem, the city with the Canaanites and where his mother lived, assembled together. I'm assuming there might have been Canaanites and Israelites, but I'm not sure about that. But it must have been, because they're considering him king. I think they're trying to say he's the king of Israel, but he's not. This is not the time of the kings yet. God sends the judges before the kings. He didn't want them to have a human king at this point. And they made Abimelech their king, but he was not a legitimate king. The first real king of Israel was Saul, which will come later. Okay, verse 7. Now when they told Jotham is the youngest son of Gideon, the one that escaped. Now when they told Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted his voice and called out. Thus he said to them, Listen to me, O men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. Once the trees went forth to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Shall I leave my fatness with which God and men are honored, and go to wave over the trees? Then the trees said to the fig tree, You come reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the vine, You come reign over us. But the vine said to them, Shall I leave my new wine, which cheers God and men, and go wave over the trees? Finally, all the trees said to the bramble, You come reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If in truth you are anointing me as king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out from the bramble and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Now, therefore, if you have dealt in truth and integrity in making Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, and his house, and have dealt with him as he deserved, for my father fought for you and risked his life and delivered you from the hand of Midian. But you have risen against my father's house today, and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech the son of his maidservant king over the men of Shechem, because he is your relative. If then you have dealt with truth and integrity with Jerubbaal and his house today, rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. So he's giving them this great lecture, and I should have, it's kind of like a parable type thing, kind of poking at their desire for a king here. And I need to study this little speech, he gives them a little bit more carefully. But anyway, he's telling them how, you have not dealt fairly with my father's house. He saved you people, and look what you've done to him and his family. This is how you repaid him. Anyway, he's confronting them too about killing his brothers. But if Abimelech is so great, then rejoice in him. Okay, verse 20. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume the men of Shechem and Beth Millo. Remember Beth Millo, they think it was the tower of Shechem, and there were men in charge of that too. And let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from Beth Millo and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham escaped and fled and went to Beer and remained there because of Abimelech, his brother. I wonder if Beer is mentioned here. I don't see it. And I'll have to research maybe and find out where it was. Anyway, he escapes. They probably would have killed him right there. So basically, he's speaking division between these two groups. Abimelech, his brother, and the people of Shechem and Beth Millo, the tower of Shechem. Right now, they're all unified because these people wanted Abimelech to be their king. But, and maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe they just want him to be the king of their city and not the king of Israel. He might have wanted them to be the king of the city. Maybe I could look into that more. See, there's always something more to learn. There's always questions that pop up. Because at this time, every city had a king, so that seems realistic. But anyway, he's speaking division between them. He's speaking out division, like, let fire come out of the men of Shechem and consume Abimelech, and let fire come out of Abimelech and consume you. Like, basically, you two destroy each other, is what he's saying. He's almost like speaking kind of like a curse on each other. Even though this is long, I think we might get through it. So let's keep going on verse 22 and see how Shechem and Jotham's brother Abimelech how things work out for them. Verse 22. Now Abimelech ruled over Israel 3 years. Well, it says he ruled over Israel. So even though he's a false king, it sounds like he's ruling over Israel. 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech. So God sends an evil spirit to split up these two, people who seem, this group of people from Shechem and Abimelech, the guy that killed all his brothers, Gideon's son, and who they named their king. Okay? He sends an evil spirit to divide them. So that violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbabel might come, and their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and all the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. So God is considering Abimelech guilty of killing his brothers, but also the men of Shechem who helped him. The men of Shechem sent men in ambush against him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who might pass by them along the road. And it was told by Abimelech. Now Gaal, the son of Ebed, came with his relatives and crossed over into Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their trust in him. Okay, so God is dividing spiritually the men of Shechem and Abimelech, the brother who killed all 70 of his brothers, Gideon's sons. Now this other man, he's like new, and his name is Gaal, Gaal. And he came with his relatives into the city of Shechem. And he wins over the men of Shechem. They put their trust in this new guy, Gaal. Okay? They went out into the field and gathered the grapes of their vineyards and trod them like making wine, and held a festival. And they went into the house of their god, one of the Baals likely, and ate and drank and cursed Abimelech. So they're partying, worshiping God, and they're cursing Abimelech, the one that they wanted to be their king. Then Gaal, the son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbabel, and is Zebul not his lieutenant? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. But why should we serve him?" And I didn't look at serve the man of Hamor. I didn't look into that. Okay, but he's saying we shouldn't serve Abimelech. This new guy, Gaul, we shouldn't serve him. Would therefore that this people were under my authority, Gaul is saying, they could be under my authority. Then I would remove Abimelech. Then he said to Abimelech, increase your army and come out. When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaul, the son of Ebed, his anger burned. Now, Zebul serves under Abimelech, the so-called king. He sent messengers to Abimelech deceitfully, saying, behold, Gaul, the son of Ebed, and his relatives have come to Shechem. And behold, they are stirring up the city against you. So he sent messengers to Abimelech to kind of lie to him and say, hey, well, I mean, it is kind of happening, but Gaul and the son of Ebed and his relatives are stirring up the city against you, kind of trying to start a fight. Now, therefore, arise by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. In the morning, as soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and rush upon the city. And behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you shall do to them whatever you can. So Abimelech and all the people who were with him arose by night and lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaul, the son of Ebed, went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate. Cities back then had a gate. They'd have a wall around them and the city gate. The city gate was very important. It was like where business happened. It's where you entered the city. It's where you exited the city. Now Gaul and the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate, and Abimelech and the people who were with him arose from the ambush. When Gaul saw the people, he said to Zebul, look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains. But Zebul said to him, you are seeing the shadow of the mountains as if they were men. Gaul spoke again and said, behold, the people are coming down from the highest part of the land, and one company comes by the way of the diviner's oak. Then Zebul said to him, where is your boasting now with which you said, who is Abimelech that we should serve him? Is this not the people whom you despised? Go out now and fight with them. So Gaul went out before the leaders of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. So Gaul and his men go out and they fight with Abimelech and his men. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. So right outside the city gate, a lot of this is happening, and people are wounded right outside the city gate. Maybe they're trying to get back in, I don't know. Then Abimelech remained at Arumah, but Zebul drove out Gaul and his relatives so that they could not remain in Shechem. So Zebul, I'm pretty sure Zebul is the lieutenant of Abimelech, and he drives out Gaul, but there's a lot of deceit lying back and forth to try to set this up. I'm just going to look at the city of Shechem again, right quick. It doesn't say where, Okay, let me not bring that up. Okay, let me keep reading. Oh, I was looking for this place, Arumah, A-R-U-M-A-H, A-R-U-M-A-H. I don't think it shows on this map. It must be nearby, though. Anyway, I'm not seeing it. But anyway, okay. So Gaul and his relatives were driven out by the lieutenant of Abimelech. They were driven out by Zebul. Now it came about the next day that the men went out to the field, and it was told to Abimelech. So he took his people and divided them into 3 companies and lay in wait in the field. When he looked and saw the people coming out from the city, he rose against them and slew them. So the people from Shechem, whom he used to have, 3 years ago he had won them over, they come out of the city. Abimelech attacks them and slays them. So don't things change quickly? In 3 years ago, people were they loved Abimelech. They wanted him to be their king. Some of them are his relatives. And now he's lying in wait. And as they come out of the city, he's killing them. But this was the curse spoken over him by his brother, his only living brother, Jotham. And God saw what he did to his brothers. And saw that Shechem was also guilty of killing the brothers they were assistants in that crime. And he's turning these two groups of people against one another. Verse 44. Then Abimelech and the company who was with him dashed forward and stood in the entrance of the city gate. The other two companies then dashed against all who were in the field and slew them. So all these people from Shushan are getting killed. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he captured the city and killed the people who were in it. Then he razed the city and sowed it with salt. I think when you sow the city with salt, it's going to be hard to grow crops there. It's going to mess up the soil and stuff. When all the leaders of the Tower of Shushan, the Tower of Shushan, I think, is that Beth Milo, okay? And there's people associated with the tower. When all the leaders of the Tower of Shushan heard it, they entered the inner chamber of the temple of Erberith, a temple like, I'm assuming a temple of Baal, okay? It was told Abimelech that all the leaders of the Tower of Shushan, or all the leaders of Beth Milo, were gathered together in the temple of their god, of their false god. So Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, and he all the people who were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a branch from the trees, and lifted it and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the people who were with him, "What have you seen me do? Hurry and do likewise." All the people with Abimelech. They also cut down each one his branch and followed Abimelech and put them on the inner chamber and set the inner chamber on fire over those inside, so that all the men of the Tower of Shushan also died, about 1,000 men and women. So there were all these men and women in this place of worship of Baal, the temple of Baal, or whatever they call it. What did they call it? Anyway, so he burns them to death. Oh my gosh, this is violent. These used to be his people, you know? He's like, aren't you my relatives? And there's men and women in there both. Then Abimelech went to the Thebes, and he camped against Thebes and captured it. Is that on here? I should. What is Thebes? Hold on, let me Google this. We're studying together. What is Thebes? Hold on just a minute. I'm reading on this website called Bible Art. Here it says Judges 9:50. In the King James Version, it reads, "Then went to Abimelech to Thebes and camped against Thebes and took it." Hold on. It's going over a lot of details we already know. Okay, Thebes was a city, but I'm not seeing it on my map. But it must have been a city that wasn't that far away. It says Thebes is a small but strategically important city, and Abimelech seeks to expand his control over the region. The verse does not provide details about the battle itself, but it serves as a reminder of Abimelech's violent and aggressive approach to establishing power. You know, he wanted power. He killed all of his brothers. You know, if somebody's willing to kill their brothers, 70 of them, would you really trust him to rule over you? I mean, the decisions people make are just crazy. Yeah. Oh, okay, so let's go ahead and read a little more here. So Abimelech, okay, so he goes to Thebes, which is another city. But there was a strong tower in the center of the city there too. And all the men and women with all the leaders of the city fled there and shut themselves in. And they went up on the roof of the tower. So they were threatened by Abimelech. So they go into their tower and they go up to the top of the tower. And Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it and approached the entrance of the tower to burn it with fire. He burned these people to death too. He's violent. But a certain woman, now remember, it's dishonorable to be killed by a woman or a young person, a kid. So they're up on the tower, and they're going to be burned to death. He set the tower on fire. But a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head. From up above, she threw it down, crushing his skull. So she broke his skull, but he's still alive. Okay, then he called quickly to the young man, his armor bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, so that it will not be said of me, a woman slew him." So the young man pierced him through, and he died. He would rather his armor bearer, the person who carries his armor around, kill him, so that he's going to die. He's been hit in the head. He's got a fatal blow. He knows his time is limited. He's going to die from that wound. But he wants his armor bearer to kill him so that it can't be said of him, he was killed by a woman. That's how he would rather be killed in a different way. These people are just so odd. But anyway, he's killed by a man in the end. When the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, each departed to his home. So they all go home. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he had done to his father in killing his 70 brothers. So Abimelech, God got even with him, and so did his youngest brother Jotham, because Jotham spoke out that let you and the men of Shechem, let you destroy each other. And they definitely did. Also, God returned all the wickedness of the men of Shechem on their heads. And the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbabel, came upon them. So things were, I guess justice was served for the brothers of Jotham and Abimelech, whom Abimelech killed, and also Jerubbabel is Gideon. Their dishonor of him, the killing of his sons, and the brother Jotham, who spoke out this curse among the two groups that they would destroy each other, Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and they did destroy each other. It's quite crazy. Anyway, we did that in record time, 32 minutes, and we did that long chapter. It doesn't hurt to read it again, or listen to this again, or listen to someone else talk about what happened. There's some kinds of animated stories about the judges as well. You might research on YouTube so that you're really getting these things in. And even if you only understand it in part, remember, building biblical literacy is life-changing, and it gives you a wisdom you hadn't had before. So I'm glad you joined me, and let's do it again next time.